Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name is Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And today we're doing a non-spoiler and spoiler discussion of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, aka my most anticipated film of the year, and my prediction for the #1 box office for the summer, back on our summer movie preview that just came out this week. I think it's Brian's #2 prediction for the summer, and
I think so.
I don't recall what you had it for anticipated.
It was top 5. I don't remember exactly. Yeah.
And the reason why is because we love the Guardians. We loved the first Guardians of the Galaxy. It was probably one of the biggest surprise hits of the MCU. Definitely a movie that, when on paper, when we didn't know these characters, sounded like this is going to be a huge misfire and it's going to blow up in everyone's faces. Plus, you're casting Chris Pratt, the guy from Parks and Rec. This is not going to work. And it ended up becoming one of our favorite MCU films. The sequel was not as strong, but still really good. Bless you. I was like, is he disagreeing with me?
And I was like, I could feel myself holding back a seat. Sorry, continue.
Like, he has to sneeze. That makes sense. Anyway, Volume 2 is, Brian and I talked about this on the previous episode, we feel is unfairly mistreated. We both think that it's still a very solid sequel. I loved it. Brian, I think you said you thought it was good, not great, but definitely not nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be.
Correct.
We both, I think, were, for the most part, fans of the holiday special, outside of like Groot's look in the movie.
Appearance. My biggest problem with the holiday special is that it felt like it was about 20 minutes long.
It did. It was
so short. There's not much to it.
It was so short. And we even though we scoffed at the way Groot looked in it, we really realized that this did not have the movie's budget. So it was more not CGI Groot. It was more like cosplay at, like, Disney Groot with a guy in a big lumbering suit. But Brian and I were kind of on two separate sides going into this third one. So I kind of know where Brian's. I know Brian's star score. I don't know Brian's thoughts on the film, and Brian doesn't know anything from me, but I think he knows I probably really like it.
I assume, yeah.
Brian's on the side of, he doesn't want to feel sad or be emotional when watching this. He just wants to laugh and have fun. And I want to laugh and have fun, but I am totally fine and embracing with the emotional weight and willing to shed tears for these characters that I've grown to love immensely since we were introduced to them back in, when was the first one? It was 2014 for almost the last decade. So, and I know that just like with Logan, which I bawled my eyes out in Logan because Wolverine's my favorite comic book character ever, that when we get to a final journey for a story of characters, much like an Endgame, stuff like that, it's going to be sad. There's going to be emotional weight. There's going to be stuff that's going to happen. And that does happen a lot in this film. Love it or hate it, this is the least funny Guardians film. I still laughed. I still had fun with it. But it's more, I would say, in the latter half of the film than in the front half. The front half is very, I don't want to say overloaded, but it's very top heavy with emotional weight and kind of darkness and chaos in a way. And it's not until we get to the second half of the film when I think it's not that the stakes have gotten softer. It's just that it's kind of released the reins a little bit to allow the characters to kind of be who they are while still dealing with the grave consequences that are happening in the film. Would you agree, disagree with that?
I actually feel like it was fairly well balanced. I mean, the thing is, you say I don't want to feel sad, I don't want to feel emotion in movies. I don't mind some of that. Like Logan's, for example, I definitely had emotional moments. And most movies have, even within the Guardians series. Yeah, the first one with his mom and things like that. In the second one, there is this moment with his dad,
and Yondu.
Yeah, and especially with Yondu. Yeah, and I don't mind. I like emotional. I like to have some dramatic parts in there. You can't just be all jokes. It wouldn't be much of a movie. It's just nothing.
It would be Thor Ragnarok.
But I was worried, especially with all the people talking about how emotional this was, how dramatic that they were going to tip too far in that direction. And so I don't want it to lose its identity. I don't want it to just be drama with a couple of jokes dropped in. I want it to be more of a balance, if anything, if not more comedy. I think for the most part, I think they struck that balance. I think it is a little bit more comedic in the second half, but I thought there's still plenty of comedy in the first half as well.
There is. It's just that there's so much like it's. I would chalk it up to almost like in the first half of the movie when someone's on their deathbed and like your family members are around you and they're trying to make jokes to try to just liven it up a little bit. And if you're there for it, then you laugh. Or you're like, this is not the time, Aunt Karen, or something like that kind of deal. Because there's so much happening, like right when it begins. Like it does not waste a moment getting into the shit's gotten real, and it's gotten real really, really fast. So you're still going to have the great little lines and quips and everything that makes these characters so lovable and great. But there's just this over looming of, we know this is the last one. There could be a chance we're losing people in this. And they keep getting put in these situations, especially in the first half, where it's like, are we about to lose? It's just, you're on edge a lot through the first half because you're like, are we about to lose someone? Is someone about to die? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's happening? And then where it's like, once you get to the halfway point of the film, it's not that thread is gone. It's that you kind of like, you've gotten accustomed to it. So you're open to laughing more at the lines. And like I said, there's some great lines to be had. Some characters definitely have some great lines throughout the film. They all do, but there's some that are steps above others. I will say for me, the MVP or the most improved character, and this has been going from all the way, is Karen Gillan's Nebula. Nebula's character's growth through this entire series has been fantastic. And of course, I love the actress because I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I was always excited when she joined the MCU. But I have loved the character growth of Nebula from the first time we see her through Volume 2, through the 2 Avengers movies to this film. I think she was a standout for me. Obviously, this story is more Rocket-centric story, which I'm all here for because everyone loves Rocket. Bradley Cooper is great at doing it as well, but I think Nebula to me was the one that really did stand out. Do you have a certain character you think that stood out before we go obviously into spoiler stuff?
Well, I think Nebula has had the most. I don't want to say growth. Well, I have a little bit growth as a character. But I mean, it's in terms of like kind of getting to kind of come into her own and have more to do and things like that. I think she has definitely kind of stepped up in this movie. But honestly, who has quietly become possibly my favorite character in this series, mostly because of the holiday special and then this, is Mantis.
I knew you were gonna say Mantis. I was like he's gonna say Mantis.
I just think that she is kind of she kind of finally found where to take that character and kind of her personality. And it's a lot of fun. I really
she went from like kind of just being like this kind of annoying character, because she would always like scream real rant, like hello, like there's like, what the hell are you doing? But it's honestly her almost like a perfect yin yang balance with Drax, which we got in Volume 2.
I saw an interview with her talking about the holiday special because they were talking. She was doing interviews for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and she talked about the holiday special, and she said how they weren't sure how they were supposed to approach that. And James Gunn said basically it's like a Dumb and Dumber holiday special with Drax and Mantis, and I'm like, okay, I see that now.
And you know what? I totally see that in that holiday special as well. Quill is still going kind of through the motions of losing Gamora, knowing that Gamora's out there but can't do anything about it, which because of that's affected kind of his standing with the team in a way, and that's something that he has to grow and get better on in the film. We do get Gamora in this, and it's a different Gamora. I mean, we know it's a different Gamora because we saw that at the end of Endgame, but this is definitely a different Gamora that we know of. And I actually did like her dynamic. I liked the new wrinkle that it brought to because it added so many more elements. It added elements with Groot, it added elements with Drax and Nebula and Quill for obvious reasons. But I actually really liked what Zoe Saldana did with this. She did something, because to me, Gamora was always just kind of there. It's like, oh, she's the love interest to Quill. She's daughter of Thanos, but she's just kind of there. And this added so much more, I think, to her character. And there's so many times where I was watching the movie and I was just like, don't do that, Gamora, kind of thing. But I think that she did. This is probably her best performance of the Guardians films. I think Infinity War she was a standout, but I do think this was probably her best Gamora performance in the trilogy. Would you agree?
Yeah, because I think she's able to kind of bring the most nuance to it. Whereas, I mean, I do think she had plenty to do in the previous movies. I didn't feel like she was just there so much, but this one, I think besides just being her character, she does get kind of play off that thing. It's like I'm not the Gamora you want me to be. I'm not who you think I am. Kind of thing.
I'm a whole other different person. Stop forcing a bubble on me just because it makes you feel better, kind of thing.
Yeah.
New cast, we've got Adam Warlock played by Will Poulter. He's, I think,
so disappointed.
You're disappointed in him.
Well, I like Will Poulter a lot. I've liked him. He's a lot of smaller movies he did. Like there was one called Son of Rambo, which is like I think his first film. He's awesome in. Obviously, We're the Millers. You'd seen him in. He was in.
He's great. We're the Millers.
The Maze Runner. I think he was great in all those movies. And so I really like. He was originally supposed to be Pennywise in It before he dropped out and Skarsgård took over. I think it would have been perfect. I think. So I was really looking forward to this, and it's like, but it's. And I don't blame him for it. I just think the character completely pointless in this movie. It's like there was like no reason for it. There's nothing he did in this movie that they couldn't have had a different character do in its place. They couldn't have like found a different way out of the situation. And his character, it's like they set it up as this idea of like he's like almost like a child. He's kind of new to the world, and they kind of wanted him to be like kind of dumb, but then they never really leaned into that. And so it's like he didn't even have enough scenes really to really flesh him out. So I didn't dislike the character. I just like if he's going to be in here, I would like them to do more with him. I
agree about 90% of what you said. Poulter should have gotten more screen time, but I also think oh god, what's Elizabeth Debicki's character's name?
She is Aisha,
the leader of the Sovereign. It's one of those things where they should have been bigger characters because they were just kind of like they were almost like the Ravagers in Guardians 1. Like they're a foil for the group, but they're not the main focus. They're just kind of there. And in Volume 2, we thought they were the main focus, but they ended up being Ego with Kurt Russell, and they were just kind of there to just be like fodder. And in this one, it's just her and World Atom. So you don't have the rest of the Sovereign around, but they still didn't get enough time to really do anything.
Well, that's just it. Like if they were going to have them in here, they needed to do more with them. Otherwise, there was no reason for Adam or Aisha to be in this movie, really, except for the fact that it's like, well, I left this dangling thing at the end of 2, so I kind of have to address it.
Yeah, it's like you have to bring them back.
The only reason they're here.
Yeah, because if I don't, then that's a loose end that we never touch, and we just technically the last one. So we gotta bring them in, which I liked that in a way that he didn't leave any loose ends. There's stuff that is brought in from the first film. You're like, I remember that. I love that the one Peter Quill story that we do have is more about that he's never gone back to Earth, except for obviously the battle at Endgame. He was on Earth technically then, but that he's never really, gone back and try to check up on his family after he was abducted by Yondu. Like that's a story that's really there, and that actually becomes an important story. It is overshadowed by the Gamora part and obviously the main plot, but it's still there and grounded. Because that's the one thing that I love about James Gunn's direction and writing of these characters is that you have a main story focus, but each character has their own story. They have their own subplot, and some are better than others, but they all gel well with the characters enough that they all get moments to shine. Even his brother Sean Gunn's Kraglin, he gets a moment to shine. Every character gets a moment to put themselves in the spotlight, and it's either crowd cheering great moments, or it's like, cool, I'm glad that person got to do something. Might not be needed at this point, but it worked, and I'm glad that they got to have a moment for these characters. And I think much like you said with Warlock, I agree. They could have had anyone do that. Honestly, the person that I think they should have done that with was the High Inquisitor. Is it Inquisitor or Evolutionary?
High Evolutionary.
High Inquisitor, Star Wars. High Evolutionary. Not most of it, but a lot of this movie that is done in rocket flashbacks, which we'll touch on in the spoiler discussion. I think High Evolutionary during the flashback scenes is a phenomenally well done villain for Rocket. Present day, He's not much. They don't do a whole lot with him. They should have. Now, had you swapped out Adam Warlock and you had him be doing the things that Warlock was doing in this film, I think it would have made more sense. I think it would have given his character a higher standing to the rest of the Guardians outside of Rocket stuff. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that. I think that the performance of the actor did a great job, which is he's from Peacemaker.
Yeah, good luck for that. Chukwudi Iwuji.
Yeah, he's great. He's great, but present day High Evolutionary is not utilized to his best effects more than in the Rocket flashbacks. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree. Yeah, I can't really go into this without spoilers later. So
yeah, it's like we're trying to have a discussion non-spoiler with you guys before we go into the big stuff. I know it's a little different than our usual review spiel kind of thing, but at the end of the day, what were your overall thoughts? And I'll get mine so we can get into the spoiler part.
So overall, I did enjoy this movie. I think that when it was being fun, I really loved this movie. But you knew that. It's like I enjoyed the comedic moments. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoyed the relationships between the characters. When it got more dramatic and stuff, there are parts of it that I liked. One thing that did bother me a lot, and it's not going to bother everybody, is you fuck with animals. Which the whole thing is, I know that's supposed to be. You're supposed to not like that. It's a way to make you hate the villain. You're supposed to think this is awful, but that doesn't make it any more pleasant for me to watch. So just on a personal level, it's like, it's like, oh, I have trouble watching movies like this. And it's like, it just when you see whether the results of it or scenes where they're actually doing things like that, I'm just like, this is not a pleasant movie for me to watch. There's a little too much of that for me, but otherwise I enjoyed pretty much the entire movie. I think that the last act does get a little bit bloated. It drags out a little longer than the movie needs to be. That's about all I can say without going to.
Where was your final review score for it?
My final score, I gave it four stars out of 5. The one other thing is the music, and I felt this in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 as well. James Gunn has always filled these movies with lots of songs and stuff, and it's fun. But in 2 and in this one, I feel like a lot of songs are just forced in there. It's like at points where like songs don't even feel like they're appropriate. Like, they decide, we got to jump in the ship we got to go get this thing to save Rocket. And all of a sudden they jump into this like peppy fun song. It's like, no, this isn't that moment. It's just a lot of songs in there where they don't belong, just for the sake of putting a song in.
There's that's honestly kind of it's not a problem, but it's kind of a thing that they kind of screwed themselves on because they did so well with Volume 1 and they knocked it out of the park with the music that it's like,
well, there's plenty of appropriate moments to do that. There were so many more they shoved in where it didn't really work,
Yeah, I feel like there was just added pressure to make sure the soundtrack was banging for those 2 films. And there are songs that work. There's songs that worked in 2 but there are songs that didn't work. I think almost everything in 1 worked.
Yeah,
and in this one, the opening song was perfect. Which I'll get into when we go into the discussion. The rest of the songs throughout, I was like, okay, it's like I know what they're doing, but none of them really grabbed me except for the very, very first song in the film, except for the post-credit scene for obvious reasons. Yes, post-credit and mid-credit scene. Obviously, it's an MCU film. You should know better by now. For me, I knew going into this movie this was going to be the least fun in a way because of the stories that they were going to be telling. I was fully prepared for it. Did I get emotional through this film? Yes. I got teary-eyed more than a few times. I lost track at certain points because it kept building and building and building and building. Is there a little too much trying to trick you in the film at certain points, certain characters? Yes, and it does get a little annoying after the fact.
We're used to it.
What's that?
It's the MCU, though. We're kind of used to it.
Exactly, which I'll go a little bit more into spoiler discussion. Overall, though, much like I said with Endgame and Infinity War, this is not just one film. This is a culmination of a story with these characters. And you can't just watch, outside of the first one, you just can't watch Volume 2 without Volume 1. You can't just watch Volume 3 without Volume 1, 2, the Endgame stuff, all that kind of stuff. So for me,
and honestly, I assume everyone here has watched this movie already. You kind of need to have seen the holiday special too. There's a couple things in there.
Yes, there is stuff in the holiday special that is touched on, addressed. There's jokes from that, but there's major plot points in the holiday special that is used in this film. So if you have not checked the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special on Disney Plus, you should watch that or at least read up on it so you know what's going on. So you're not going, wait, what? Because, yeah, it's there. But at the end of the day, like I said, the first half is very heavy-handed with the emotions. The second half is a little more fun and lighter. But at the end of the day, I loved this movie. I loved this trilogy. It was sad to see these characters go. We don't know who or how many or if any of them are going to be coming back. But I think the story we got with the characters that we've all loved, I think it was a beautiful potential send-off for a lot of these characters. And for me, at the end of the day, this movie matched my expectations, which were incredibly high. Yes, it's not a perfect film by any means. There are things that I wish they would have done differently or added a little bit or nitpicky, which we're going to discuss. But at the end of the day, I loved this film. If you're a fan of the Guardians, you're going to love this film. If you're a fan of the MCU, you're obviously going to check this out anyway. I don't need to sell you guys on Guardians Volume 3. At the end of the day, when the closing credits started, I was happy with what I got. And that, to me, is all I could have asked for watching this film. Was I just did not want to be upset and disappointed. You're going to be upset. You're definitely going to be upset. But are you upset for the right reasons? And at the end of the day, yes, I was. And I was like, bravo to everyone involved. James Gunn, good luck in DC. I hope you do there what you did here, because you knocked it out of the park with the Guardians trilogy.
You already did with the Suicide Squad. So.
And you did it with the Suicide Squad as well. For me, I'm giving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 a 94%. Yes, it's not a perfect film by any means, but it is a movie that I will hold like Logan. Logan is not a perfect film either. Logan is a dark, dreary-ass fucking film. But it's so special to me because of the characters involved and the story and everything like that, that it's one of my favorite comic movies of all time. The Guardians trilogy is one of my favorite trilogies because I love those characters so much. So a 94% for me. It's my number one film of the year right now. Will it be by the end of the year? Who knows? Honestly, it's one of those things like it's May. If it is at the end of the year, wow, the rest of the year did not go out as planned. But it is my number one right now. If you guys have not watched this movie, stop now. Have fun. Bye. Go watch the movies. Go have some fun. There's the tagline. Now, if you have watched the movie, we're about to go spoil everything. So here's your spoiler warning. Giving you guys a chance to click out of here. At this point, you're screwed because we're talking about everything we want to talk about. Opening credit. Creep playing and Rocket singing Creep, I thought was fucking amazing. I loved that so damn much because it set the tone for the movie. It is a character that we have been building this up for 2+ films now. Rocket's past. Rocket doesn't want to talk about his past. Why does Rocket hate being called a raccoon when he's clearly a raccoon? Why is all these things something with Rocket? And we're feeling that in that moment when he sings Creep. And you're seeing the life around him, which we established in the holiday special. They're on Nowhere. That's their headquarters now. Everyone, except for Quill, seems to be just living their life, enjoying their life. Rocket's got this trauma that he just can't let himself be happy. He can have little brief moments, which you've seen, but at the end of the day, he still is thinking about past events, and so is Quill to a later extent. Did you think that was heavy-handed, or did you like that and start into the film with Rocket?
No, that's a good opening to it. Because it kind of sets the tone for kind of where the story is going to go, what it's going to be its focus, just by seeing even just expressions on a computer animated raccoon's face.
I normally don't like that song. I think that song's overused. I think that song is kind of a song.
I never liked the song much, but that's his thing is even songs you don't like. I think James Gunn has used music well, except when he overuses it occasionally. But when he does use it, I think he uses it well for setting a tone.
Mm-hmm. I do think I wasn't necessarily buying into Quill still being like this, like drunken, like idiot based off of where we left him at the holiday special.
Yeah, I guess it was supposed to be just because of he had lost Gamora, but it's like
we moved on past that. Like if he was like that during the holiday special, I could see that. But it's like where we left him at the holiday special, I wouldn't think, unless he was just unless he said something like, this would have been our anniversary, or this would have been or
Which the only thing
someone
it said, the only thing it said is, "Oh, again." But so it's like apparently happens
this has been
occasionally.
continually happening.
But
But
it's
that's go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. But no, I was just agreeing with you with where we last saw him. It's like I don't know if I really see this.
He seemed like he was in a happier place, even with Thor: Love and Thunder. He seemed like he was getting better, like he was moving on. But I will say this, coming from someone who's had that kind of heartbreak and who's dealt with that, you can be fine for a long time, and then one day it all comes back and it hits you like a ton of bricks. It happened to me more recently. So
You had a past version of somebody show up. That's weird.
yes. And yeah, exactly my point. I'll tell you that story some other time. But it's I get it, but to have that be the kind of introduction back to the character, I don't think it was necessarily the right way to go about it. But I think it was literally there just to kind of make Quill not be ready to go when Warlock showed up. Now, like we said in the non-spoiler talk, do I think High Evolutionary would have been better for this because he is so powerful? They claim he is throughout the whole film. He could have easily gone in there and fucking wrecked shop like that. But then he would have taken Rocket. But I do think as much as you said you didn't care, well, not that you didn't care, but you wanted to utilize Warlock so much better. That was a really good introduction to him. Just coming in and just utterly just
Well, what gets me is like if it was just that the Sovereign still, because even at the end of Volume 2, the Sovereign like basically had this thing out for the Guardians and they wanted to get him. It's like that made sense if that's what it was. But then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, wait, now he's after specifically Rocket for this other person that hired them. It's like, why not just let them have their own motivation?
Yeah, taking that away from them and kind of making them feel like they're
just
slaves.
hired help.
Yeah, hired help, slaves to high evolutionary. I didn't necessarily agree with that or like that because it does make them feel like henchmen to a point. Having them be kind of like they were in Volume 2, where it's like, no, we are the high society, and we're going to get you for what you did, which was steal a couple batteries. But still, I do think, like I said, that added element of high evolutionary's connection to them, I don't think it was necessarily needed. I think it actually hurt them because it also showing high evolutionary just utterly dominate Warlock at that point also kind of just took a little off of Warlock. Not the whole point of like, oh, he's a child, he's stupid. Because I mean, even then, like I thought that added some comedy elements to Warlock, but him just getting just off by high evolutionary, because it's one of those things where it's like, and that's the reason why I said he didn't get utilized well enough in present day. It's like Warlock fucked them up. I mean, he utterly destroyed the Guardians. High evolutionary treats Warlock like he's a tick. But
well, it's
then,
like I think that's one thing they did a poor job in this movie of is define just what exactly is the high evolutionary, because like he seems to have these powers. Did he like make himself evolve to get these powers? What are his powers? Things like, because yeah, he can do that, but then there's times when people are charging him, he could just do it to them, and he never does it like the Guardians are coming at him, and he could easily defeat them, but he doesn't.
Well, the very, very end point with the Guardians, where they're all joined together, I feel like it's because Rocket shot him with a gun that he knew could hurt him, because Rocket knows better. That part I was fine with it. It was more like when Groot and Quill like attack his palace, he, instead of just like knocking them back, he's just kind of like not a factor in any of that. And then he just kind of disappears for the most part of the big final battle. It's not like I just felt like for the most part the Guardians in the third act, it was not more or less they were fighting a really big bad. It was more or less they were against a clock because the ships were breaking, kind of thing. It felt more like Star Trek in a way, where it's like we're on a ticking clock because we're about to get exploded because of the destruction. We're not necessarily fighting like Ego or Ronin at this point. We're just trying to get the fuck off the plane, off the ship, kind of deal. Where that's why I feel like they didn't utilize him in present day well enough. And that's the other thing I was wondering too. Is like in the flashbacks, there's that one moment.
Come to think of it, in the first one, they were on Ronin's ship, which was crashing. In the second one, they were on the planet, which was exploding. The third one, then I see a trend here. Okay,
I do see a trend here, but at least them, like they try fighting Ronan and it doesn't work. They tried fighting Ego. It doesn't work. The one time they try to fight Evolutionary, they just kick his fucking ass, kind of thing. And he shouldn't be more powerful than Ego. Obviously, he's a fucking planet. But I just don't feel like Evolutionary was really much of a. You know who he reminded me of, honestly, is he reminded me of Chiwetel Ejiofor in Serenity. I feel like they were kind of playing almost the same type of character, except to a higher extent because he's like this god creator. But like as I was watching, I was like, I feel like I've seen this performance already. And I love that performance. I love Chiwetel in Serenity, but I kind of feel like I was seeing that performance already in this. But there was one moment in the flashback that made me wonder how he was getting so powerful. Maybe he had his own kind of testing things, because at one point where he stumbles into the cages like he's hurt or drunk.
I thought he was drunk or something. Yeah,
or something, because he seemed relatively weak. And I was like, okay, so he is fragile.
See, I took that scene as he was drunk, because he's like, wait a minute, I'm the high evolutionary. How is this lowly little creature piece of trash smarter than me? How did he figure out something I couldn't? And I took it as more of a drunk scene.
Just for some reason, the way he stumbled, it made it seem like he was hurt or weak, or because I'd have to watch it again to hear it. It made it seem like he got out of something too fast. That's what it sounded like. His what do you the ones that had the little computer chip things in their head. It made it seem like he had gotten out of like an incubation tube or something too quickly, because he had to go talk to Rocket at that point. And that's where I was like, maybe that's where he gets his power from. But once again, they didn't establish
they
it.
did a very good job of defining how he is, and what's
exactly, because you have that moment in the third act where he kind of like almost like goes nuclear bomb, and you're just like, fuck, if he could do that, why doesn't he just do that right when all the Guardians were there? Yeah. It's the same thing with Quill at the very end when they fake his death scene. Where's his thing?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to put his mask on.
Like, where's his fucking mask? Like, that's right there on his ear. Like, why isn't he doing that kind of thing? It's like, because I'm like,
need yet another fake death. Like
he never put that on the whole movie.
Yeah,
never. Unless maybe Thanos broke it during the fight in the previous films. I don't remember if he did or not.
I would think he'd have another one.
Did he have one in Thor: Love and Thunder?
I don't recall for sure. I don't know.
I can't remember. But I will say this. I think they should have just killed Drax off, because they pretend killed him like 2 or 3 times in this fucking movie. And it's like, honestly, I think the brilliance of it is they should have let Nathan Fillion be the one to kill Drax, because everyone fucking loves Nathan Fillion, and everyone was so excited. I was too excited to see Nathan in like actual visual, like on the film, and then he ends up being the one to kill Drax. Oh my god, that would have been brilliant. But it's like because I honestly, like, if I was going into this movie and I was like, okay, who's gonna die? I was like, Drax is definitely going to die, because we know that he doesn't want to come back. I don't think Rocket will die, because I feel like they can continually keep Groot and Rocket in these movies and not have to have Bradley Cooper or them back technically. Nebula, I thought, was probably going to die. I thought maybe Quill would have died. Gamora, I thought, was not going to die, because you already killed her technically once. But like after like the second or third time they did that to Drax, I'm like, I just don't care anymore. Like, if he does die, it's like, well, you should have done that when it mattered.
I think it would have been better if he had like a good scene of sacrifice or something like that.
Yeah.
But then they decide, we're going to leave him behind, and he was going to be a dad, and he's going to help on the plans. Like, that's kind of a boring ending for him.
But see, that's the problem with that ending with him as well, is that he's still on nowhere with all these kids. That's where their headquarters is. So if we're going to continue with Guardians movies after this, how are you going to keep Drax off screen if they're at nowhere? Same thing with Sean Gunn. He's a part of the main group now, even in the post-credit scene. So it's like, or did Sean Gunn just say he wasn't going to do Rocket's animation anymore?
I wouldn't think he would do this movies without his brother in charge.
Yeah, because I know they said he wasn't going to do.
If he gets to have a major role in a movie, when he hasn't really had before, maybe they would. But honestly, that new group, we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
I know, we're jumping around. It's fine.
You'll never see a movie with them as your group.
No.
maybe a Disney Plus,
If
limited
anything,
series.
they'll combine with another group.
If anything, they'll pop up in Secret Wars or something.
Yeah, but it
But
was.
I don't see them having their own. I don't see them becoming a new group like a
I just
feature film or anything.
I remember seeing something say that Sean Gunn says he's no longer going to do the mocap for Rocket, and I just kind of chalked that up to he's not doing Guardians.
Getting told to walk around his knees is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, which I mean that sucked.
Yeah.
That sucked for him. Did you notice this? I don't know. You probably didn't catch it because of all the credits. Andy Serkis was mocap executive producer of this, and I was like,
Andy Serkis has essentially started up like a company. Like after he worked on Lord of the Rings and King Kong and stuff, he basically started up a whole company where they specialize in mocap and stuff. So I'm sure it's just because they must have used that company for some of their stuff.
His name popped up, and I was like, yeah, there you go, buddy. Like you're already in the MCU, but good for you.
Oh, there's tons of people. I mean, after this movie, Judy Greer and Linda Cardellini now have 2 roles in the MCU each. So there you go.
Who was okay? Remind me who Judy Greer was in the movie. Because I know
Judy
Linda
Greer was
Cardellini.
Pig.
I don't remember who that was. That the warthog that got his
That's the
ripped
pig
off?
that was that they sent off trying to kill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I was like, when I saw it was
And then
Warpig,
Cardellini
like,
was Lila.
I was like, was that the? Well, yeah, I knew that was Lila.
Yeah.
Yeah, because honestly, I expect a part of me was looking up and it was nobody because of all the Easter eggs. I figured the one goon that Nathan Fillion didn't like was someone we knew in makeup, and it wasn't.
Well, you know what it is this movie, more so than his other movies already are, is packed with James Gunn friends and family.
Absolutely.
I mean, actually because I know several people, obviously Daniela Melchior and some of those people from the Suicide Squad. Pete Davidson is the voice in this movie. I actually did a comparison with the two of them. I did like an IMDb, like you can do a comparison thing. There are 15 actors who are in both the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And of course, you got his wife, Jennifer Hahn, has a big role as the controller on that one planet, things like that.
Gets shot in the leg, and that was great. I love how she acted that.
So I think both of the guys, especially the one you're talking about, Nathan Fillion was talking to, I think that's another one who was like a friend of James Gunn's that he put in a role.
Gotcha. But yeah, I was expecting it to be like someone we knew, but we just didn't know. Much like how Nathan Fillion was in the first 2 films,
right?
But we didn't know that was him, kind of thing. But yeah, Ratcatcher 2 was it Ura or Uda? Uda. And then obviously High Evolutionaries from Peacemaker. So yeah, I was like you're starting to see the connective like link kind of thing, which I'm not mad at that. People are getting so damn butthurt that his wife keeps popping up and shit. She's a good actress, guys. If she was shit, I could see the argument, but she is allowed to be in movies, man. It's like get off his ass. But yeah, much like I talked about in the non-spoiler review, I think Nebula's, like I said, character. I loved that she, for the most part, was effectively kind of like the de facto leader of the Guardians with Rocket. It wasn't Quill. It was basically Nebula and Rocket. And I loved that relationship between them had grown so big that like the first thing, and granted it's because he saw the con thing, but like when Rocket wakes up and he's like, where's Nebula? Because she's calling, kind of thing. But like even that moment when she hears Rocket the first time afterwards, like Nebula's reaction to that.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck yes. Like, thank you. I got emotional seeing her get emotional about that moment. I loved Karen Gillan's performance in this movie, but I love just like the moments that she had. There's so many great moments. Like, honestly, it was a joke in the teaser, which I love that joke when Gamora was like, "That doesn't sound like me. That sounds more like her." And she's like, "Knock it off!" Halfway through the movie, I was like, I honestly would buy these two together now. Like, I'm actually I'm seeing Nebula and Peter actually, like, I could see this be a thing. She'll cut his dick off in 2 seconds if she pisses him off, but I was honestly kind of shipping them at one point through the movie, but
I don't know that far, but okay.
I just really enjoyed watching them interact, but I loved Nebula's performance throughout this, and I love that someone actually stood. I love that when Mantis stood up to her throughout the film too, because Mantis, like I said, Mantis's character, she was an annoying character who found Drax, and then they were like, yeah, Dumb and Dumber throughout the whole thing. I loved almost like the the older brother, younger sister thing, like when he tells her to get on the motorcycle and like he lies to her and then they show up and she's just like he did it kind of thing. Like I love that dynamic for them, but I also love that scene where she stands up to Nebula and she says all those things and Drax was like, you guys think I'm stupid? And then she's like, forget. And I was like, that's a beautiful moment. That's a beautiful scene. Each character gets these great moments throughout. Drax gets his great moments a couple times throughout the movie. Just like when he talks to the kids and she's like, why didn't you? I was like, you didn't ask. You just assumed I was an idiot kind of thing. I like I said, that's why I love about these characters and how James Gunn has written them is that you can have someone like Drax be this kind of one note comedy joke. And then you give them one scene to just completely full circle themselves and have these great moments. And like you said with Mantis, like I loved that one moment with her and Drax where she's like, no one listens to me. Like no one's do this. I need you to say this so that way they pay attention kind of deal. And like you said, Mantis is kind of growing to be one of your favorite characters of the group. You add more to that because I know I don't want to.
Well, it's twofold because one, she kind of in a group of people that is very dysfunctional. She's kind of this almost like his voice of reason. Like when she's talking about Drax and she's like, I don't remember the exact quote. It's like he helps us and he cares about us, he loves us. It makes us laugh and he loves us. How is that a liability? I think is what she says.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that where she's kind of like, yeah, you all hate each other, but you don't realize what you have here. You have this family, you have each other. This is what these people contribute to the group. So I love that aspect of her. But then I also just love the fact of when they just lean into her and just her comedy, her style of it, both physically and in
how every time she lands on her fucking head. Every time, like she keeps falling. It's like, oh my god! Every time she lands on her face. It's just like, and how like when they get on I'm gonna say because every time I heard the planet name, I just kept thinking of Oscorp.
It's like Olga Core or something like that.
Something like that, but like they're all like bouncing around normal, and she's like doing like spins. And shit, like,
Orgascope, that's what it is.
Orgascope. They're all like bouncing like normal, and then there she is like flipping and doing all this because it's like she can't get her bearings and kind of stuff. Like she's always one of the characters that like you just have to pay attention to her in the background because she's doing something. I do think Groot, like I said, Groot looks way better in this one. Like
I still like the original, tall, lanky Groot 1,000 times better. And this one is more of the short, stocky one, which I guarantee you part of it was a budget choice because in a lot of shots it can just be a dude in a costume. Because he doesn't have to have weird proportions and stuff. But obviously they enhance it with CG or just use CG in other parts of it, so it looks better than it did in the holiday special, obviously.
Yeah.
But I still like the old look better. I don't hate this one, but
I did love how when him and Quill go into High Evolutionary ship and they don't look at him because he's a tree, and then he's got like all the fucking guns are inside him. He's just like pulled out. But I was like, yes, Groot gets a badass scene. I was like, he needed a badass scene, and I loved it because he did just kind of just stand around for most of the movie. He didn't really have a whole lot to do because Rocket is kind of the voice box for the most part for him. And I also love Gamora was like, y'all just making up what he says, right? Like, like yes, I know who you are. Like, I love that she became.
It's kind of thing where it's like you can buy that, like, Rocket, however much time you spent with him, understands his language, understands what he's saying. But then all of a sudden it seems like every single person on the ship can understand him. Except for her.
But they've also been around him long enough.
Yeah, but still, how do you? It's still 3 words.
Were you okay with it? Or did you have a problem with him saying "I love you guys" at the end?
I didn't like that. I didn't hate it. It didn't take me out of the movie, but it's like the whole thing about him is he only says these words, and then in the first one when he says "we are Groot," I'm like, okay, it's a slight variation on it, but it still kind of has an emotional resonance to it. This just seemed like, why? Now you're just going to say that he could learn words if he wanted to, he just has never done it. It's like,
I was just more shocked that it didn't seem like any of them were shocked that he said that kind of thing. But that was the other thing too, is that you notice that like at the end of the movie, Gamora understood what he said. She turned around, she was like, wait, Did I fucking get? Did I figure this out now?
Or she just decided I'm gonna play along too, and guess what he said?
Well, no, because she didn't notice it right away. Because he just walked up behind her and said, "I am Groot." She was, "No, I'm fine. I'm just," and then she was like, "Wait, like,
Yeah, I don't know.
huh?" kind of thing. So I think it's one of those things where I think maybe it's just like if you're around him enough, you just kind of like you said with Rocky, he just kind of you just kind of figure out what he's saying through it. Kind of deal. It's no different than someone with like, you know, a foreign language. You might not 1,000% know what they're saying, but through inflection and facial expression and stuff like that, you're like, okay, I get kind of where they're coming. I know what they're saying, but I don't really know 100%. He could just be like R2-D2 and cussing them all out the whole fucking time, and they don't fucking know. But let's talk about the big story, which was Rocket. I know we touched on it a little bit at the beginning because we were just kind of starting with the film, but how did you feel about the flashbacks story?
Well, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I don't like when movies use animals to manipulate my emotions.
I get that, but I'm talking about the actual story.
Right. I'm
not the abuse of the animals. No one actively likes that.
Well, I know they don't actually like it, but I mean, I feel like I'm extra sensitive to it because like there's movies that I'm sure are great movies that I've still never seen because I'm like, whether I know the dog's gonna die or things like that. I'm like, I don't want to watch that movie. So
I have not ever gone back and rewatched I Am Legend because I can't watch the dog deaths.
I've never even watched 8 Below because I know a dog's gonna die. I never watched Marley and Me because I knew it was about dogs.
I also have never watched Marley and Me because I know the fucking dog dies in that movie. I feel you. We're on the same wavelength.
But this movie I'm obviously going to watch. And I knew that's kind of what this movie was going to be about. I think that first of all, seeing the other animals they experimented on was really disturbing.
Especially Floor. Floor is nightmare inducing.
Yeah, this is a weird
Did she
stuff.
Did she need the teeth? Did she need to have the teeth part there?
Yeah. So there was that part to it, and then and some of the parts that just seemed like they could have discussed it without showing me scenes. I mean, even though they didn't show it, like show them like watching them experimenting on it or something. And it's like, yeah, I don't really want this stuff. But anyway, that's just how I reacted to those scenes.
Honestly, though, they really didn't.
As far as the actual story, I think that, I mean, it was an appropriate story. It's like it's not like they just suddenly came out of nowhere with the story. This is something that's been all along through all the movies. It's been this thing of Rocket has this past. He doesn't like to talk about it. Horrible things were done to him that turned him into what he is today. And so it wasn't.
He hates the term raccoon because that's what they called him, was raccoon, and so he takes it as a term of.
He's like, no, my name is Rocket. That's the name I gave myself with my friends.
And it wasn't until he saw that door and realized, oh shit, I actually am a raccoon. Yeah. It wasn't a hateful name they gave me. It was that. Like, I thought that was a great moment, but. Yeah. Continue.
But so yeah, this wasn't a story out of nowhere. It made sense that that's where this was going to. I like that even though these horrible things were done to him, how at the same time he found his basically first family, his group of friends that he's with, which of course has even more emotional resonance when they fucking kill him off, which is the worst part of the movie.
Dude, my theater. Like when they killed Lila, like we were like, oh fuck. But when he shoots and kills 2 guards, and then he goes around, and then you see that Teef and Floor, my theater audibly went
right.
It's like it took where it's like it took me out of the moment because I was like, oh damn, this is really getting them, and I was like to the point where like all of a sudden like I got taken out of the moment because of the theater people. I was like, I'm glad that affected you, but you just took me out of the fucking moment. But yeah, that was like I loved young Rocket voice.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they still had the inflection of talking like Bradley Cooper, because I mean Bradley Cooper still did the voice. They just
well, no, he didn't. I assumed he did because I was like, I bet they did it and they tweaked it,
That's what I thought they did. They didn't do that.
But no, I looked and there's a credited voice for young Rocket.
I'm talking about like teenage Rocket, like when he was doing like when he was having like coming up with Rocket the name, because he had the Bradley Cooper.
Oh yeah, I don't know which ones were and weren't him, but yeah,
I think there might have been like the very young version of Rocket.
The naming scene had me have like traumatic flashbacks to X-Men First Class, but I didn't hate it nearly as much though.
I was like, oh don't do that to this movie, even though I love First Class. Don't do the well, you're this, so don't do that. But I mean, it was such a kid conversation. I'm lying on a floor, so I'm gonna name myself Floor. And like, but no, I thought that was a great scene. I loved those moments, which is perfect for, they like mind fucked manipulated us into when those deaths did occur, that you earned the tears that you got from that moment. But then you had the moment later when Rocket was deciding to stay or go, and you saw them again, and that moment was so well earned. I mean, you knew what was going to happen. You knew Lila was going to go, like, not yet kind of thing. But seeing Teeth and Floor in the background, like, hey, kind of thing, like, all this was so fucking great. It was so good, and it was so well deserved by Rocket. And coming full circle at the very, very end, where he's like, my name is Rocket Raccoon. And I was like mentally, like, yeah, like this one, like, yes!
There's a lot of scenes in like the last act where I was like, yeah.
It's like that's what I'm saying. It's like you have to have this emotional shit, so you can have the fucking fist pump moment. And that's why when we were talking about this earlier, like, I don't want to feel emotional while watching the movie. I just want to have, like, you can't have those moments without that. You have to have them. And
you're talking about the fake, because there's like the fake death of Drax, there's the fake death of Peter Quill, and then you have the fake death of Rocket Raccoon, and then but like you're talking about that scene where she's like
Rockets was the only one that affected me. Quill's, I was like, he's not dying.
Well, I'm just saying there's so many of these things, but then like that scene we were talking about, where like seeing him like in, I don't know what you want to call it, the edge of heaven or whatever it is, where he's seen Lila and the others, and she says not yet, and then he comes back. But then, like, later on, when he decides to go back to help more people or whatever, I'm like, oh, did he come back just to do that? Is he still going to die and go meet his friends? Like, I honestly thought they were going to essentially kill him again at that point. But
I didn't think they were going to kill him again, because I would have been like, oh god, that would have been traumatic if they did that.
That would have been like, honestly, oh, he's dead. No, he's alive. You can be happy. No, he is dead. Oh shit.
That's the equivalent of them doing the whole Glenn death in The Walking Dead. Like, oh, you thought he was gonna die, but he came back, but then he died like 6 episodes later by Negan. But spoilers for a show that's been on for a while, and it's over now anyway. But I was like, because like for me in my brain, when they were saving the kids, I wasn't thinking that he was going to look for animals. I was thinking he was going to look for High Inquisitor. But then he got down that hallway and was like, shit, are there still animals here? And then he knows, he's like, well, I can't leave now. And then when he picked up all the raccoons, I was like, dude, you're not gonna be able to open those cages with all those raccoons on you. I was like,
what about the rest of those cages? Come on,
like,
man.
Put them down real quick, bro. And then you found out how many more animals were on there. I was like, where the fuck were they keeping all these things? And that fucking lady with the monkey, like, that lady didn't deserve that.
Oh yeah, she ended up looking like the High Inquisitor. You got me saying now, the High
characters who don't deserve to be brutally like attacked and murdered. Not that she got murdered, but that monkey fucked her up. And I thought the Rocket Raccoon story was fantastic. It was full circle for his character. The only thing I wish, and I think most people are going to wish, you may not, is that I would have liked to have seen one final flashback to have seen where he met Groot. Like, I would have liked to have seen how they would have gotten together, so that way we know that when Rocket felt at that moment that he failed all his friends and he's alone, that all of a sudden here's this tree.
Well, the problem is, I think that was much later, because like in the first,
that would have been fine. We could have
in the first movie they talk about like he's recently been working as the hired muscle along with this Rocket Raccoon, and so it's like I think it was not long before Guardians 1 they really started teaming up.
I don't know, but they seemed like they knew each other so well by the time the first movie started that I kind of would have liked to have seen them where they were at, because to understand why they're like so.
There's a whole Rocket Groot cartoon on Disney Plus. Maybe that explains it. I don't know.
I would be okay with that. I would totally be okay with that. That was the only one thing. Now, under my impression, I was thinking that maybe that he met Rocket younger, kind of thing, and then like, well, then that we should have gotten that. But if they do meet much later, then I can see why maybe they left that part out. But yeah, I visually, I thought this looked great, especially that Oscorp. Orthoscope, or what the fuck you want to call it.
I think it's Orgacorp. It's on the Orgascope. Is the
Yeah, I thought that planet looked awesome. I thought that looked so cool. I loved everything about those scenes. I loved the Quill like let me woo her and thing, and then I love how Gamora was just going full on like, what are you doing? Like I loved everything about that. I loved the Nathan Fillion of it all. I loved the fight sequences because that reminded me of the jailbreak from the first movie. Everything in that worked for me. I did notice that they recasted Miley Cyrus with the Ravagers though, because she was definitely not in the cast.
I know Miley Cyrus was in the Ravagers.
Wasn't she like the little talking head, robot head in the second one in Volume 2? Wasn't it Miley Cyrus?
No, that was
I thought it was Miley Cyrus in the second movie.
Oh, the second one I don't know. In this one it's Tara Strong.
Yeah, I want to say Tara Strong replaced
Was
her.
it Miley Cyrus? I don't know. I don't remember that, but possibly.
I'll look it up real quick. But what did you think about bringing them back?
There was a lot of. Oh, it just yeah. I'm looking right here at an article about the cameos. It says replaced Miley Cyrus. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I was pretty positive that she was Miley Cyrus in the first.
Well, it's easy to replace. It's just a voice on a character. But yeah, I mean, they had tons of cameos from the earlier Ravagers, things like that. I did like seeing a slightly smaller or slightly larger part for Molly Quinn, who is Nathan Fillion's daughter on Castle.
Yes, I caught that. I caught that right away.
She's actually in part 2 as well, but
yeah.
It's like a blink and you miss it. Here you get to see a little bit more of her at least.
Yeah, I was like, that's why I was hoping. I knew it was is that his two buddies, the one that he hated, and then the one who's like, I like you. Where it would have actually been the two guys from two detectives from Castle. I thought that would have been hilarious.
That would have been great. Or even better yet, have like Adam Baldwin and Alan Tudyk.
Yes, I would have been even more for that.
I mean, obviously you couldn't have them, physically like their faces because then it would take you out of it, but it could easily be the people in those costumes.
Well, you could have done the Castle detectives, and I don't think enough people would have like.
Oh yeah, because I love the Castle detectives. Yeah.
Oh, I would have loved. That's what I was hoping for. That was when I was going back to look at the casting. I was hoping that one of them was that one.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand what you said. Shut up, kind of thing. But I loved everything about that sequence. Did you have any? Did you like that whole mission?
My only problem with that scene, which I thought it was good, but that whole world, that's where I felt like it got a little too colorful, silly? Cartoonish. I don't know, because especially they had all the different color spacesuits and they're floating. It looked very, I don't know, it looked like some kind of.
I felt more about
movie.
I felt that more about Counter Earth, where it just felt like a bunch of furries.
A little bit of that too, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like a bunch of furries in a neighborhood, because like some of them looked really good, and then there was like the panda, where it's like, no, that just looks like a dude in a panda suit, and it was just like I was like, this is the one part of the movie it's the Canto bite of this film. It's like I don't hate it, but I also don't think it's necessarily needed in the film.
Well, I think that was just because when he was younger, Rocket basically gave him the key to create this supposed utopia with these creatures, and so that's where the High Evolutionary was now on this Counter Earth, where he had all these creatures there. I guess you just kind of had to see kind of the outcome of his experience.
That it basically ended up becoming Earth anyway, just with weird creatures. But it was more like the whole like table scene. Like that was there mainly just for comedy. They just like, hey, we got to throw a bunch of jokes in right now just to get some people to laugh. But it was just like that whole sequence. I was like, if there was anything that could have been removed from this movie, you probably could have removed this whole sequence, because I didn't hate it by any means. Like I still enjoyed the hell of it. It was weird though that the bat understood everything Quill was saying, but no one could understand what the bat was saying. I was like, she understood everything. He was like, everything he was asking. She's like, no. It's like.
And his sign language wasn't good enough for her to figure it out either.
No, but I did love the when Mantis was going, she goes, that's the same thing. No, it's not. It's the same thing. I loved all that. But
and in that general scene, in that general area, we get the MCU's first and only so far as I'm aware unbleeped F-bomb.
Yes, and it was so fucking good.
Get the fucking car.
It worked so well. What do? You open the fucking door and you get in the car. I laughed so hard at that moment. But then I also love the moment where it's like, because he got in the car, I was like, Quill doesn't know how to drive. And then of course you have that moment, and then she's like, do you want me to drive? Do you want me to get out of the car? Which is why I was so cool with having those two be a thing, because like that's just such a couple argument. And then of course you got Gamora in the car or in the ship looking down, you're like, I love that. one thing I did love, it was an ongoing joke throughout the whole movie, but for me, it obviously worked because dogs. Cosmo being called Bad Dog worked to perfection. I still, as much as
you knew the first time they did it, you knew eventually he's gonna say she's not a bad dog, she's a good dog. That's where it was going. So it was no surprise we got to it.
I
But
love
it's still, I love the fact that the
me.
dog's so obsessed with, no, you can't. I'm not bad dog. Take it back.
Take it back.
I will say, if I have a negative about this movie, it's that they sidelined Kraglin and Cosmo for most of the movie. It's like I'm glad. See, when we got to the end, I thought that was gonna be it, and like we basically only saw them in the cameos. But then the kind of the last scene went on, and you got to see them actually have some kind of.
Yeah, like I loved, even though she's still.
But I would have liked to see them out on the adventures with them, you know.
Yeah,
especially because Maria Bakalova, I really like her, and I think she could be fun with the voice. But she has almost nothing to do.
She still sounds like Christian Shaw to me. Every time she talked, it sounds like Christian Shaw.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Every time I heard it, I was like, because I was watching, I was like, no.
But then again, I've never heard Christian Shaw talk with an accent, so I couldn't tell you.
It sounds like her. It sounds like her trying to do it right.
And then Kraglin. Okay, so even if you learn how to use the arrow, which by the way, I gotta say, I think his flashbacks of Yondu, I think was just recycled footage. I don't think that was newly shot cameo. It looked very much like other scenes. I think it's
which still him.
Which would make sense because it's just a vision.
Him seeing Yondu worked for me, dude. I actually got him.
No. See, well, my thing is,
it worked
even if in the moment he learned to use your heart, not your head, to guide your arrow, things like that. How is that arrow like the most powerful weapon in the universe? It can just fly through these creatures that are like barreling over everybody. It's just like one hit, dead.
But it didn't. But it didn't work. But it didn't work on Warlock though.
Well, that's because Warlock. But yeah,
I love the animal. Who threw that at me?
And also, it's the thing of is he mastered how to use it right. But still, it's like,
I mean, he made full on connection with Adam. It's just it hit him in the cheek and it bounced off. But I did love that. Who threw that? And just
I just write that off to Adam being more powerful because Adam gets stabbed through the chest and then basically walks it off.
Well, yeah, because that was the other thing too. Was like when you saw that thing in the air, I was like, "Is that Adam?" And I was like, "It had to be Adam," because I didn't see him laying next to Drax anymore. Yeah. But no,
that's the thing. People let this movie heal not only Adam, because you can write that off to he's got some kind of powers or abilities, whatever. But those are the most powerful med packs in the world.
Yeah, they're basically video game med packs. Is you can take a med
pack. Breaks your arm, boom, my arm is fine. Rocket is on the verge of death. You put it on him, he's up 100% power. Off to fight.
Because they couldn't put it on him at first because it was the safety guard thing was on, but because he's so small, that med pack probably didn't take long to heal him at that point.
But that's it. It not only heals his wounds, it heals him to 100% capacity where he's not even affected by mortal wounds he had earlier.
He still looked like he was weak to a point. But the other thing that I was wondering about is when they're trying to fly into high evolutionary ship, and they broke off into 3 different ships, and then I don't know what you want to call the monster machine army.
They had a name, but I don't remember. Yeah,
they were running in through their glass fronts. How did they not all just instantly die? Was in space? Because Adam Warlock went right through Quill and Gamora's. I was like, wouldn't they have gotten sucked out at that point or died or whatever? And rockets, they were full on crashing into his windshield. But he was fine through that whole thing.
Was that at Nowhere?
They were flying. They weren't in Nowhere. The Nowhere was behind them because you had their ships, you had High Evolutionary's big ship, and then Nowhere was behind them. They were.
Because I know that was James Gunn's explanation for previously what happened with Gamora and Star-Lord is that basically because Nowhere is the size it is, it basically has its own kind of atmosphere, and so they weren't in outer space. They're kind of in a layer of there where there was some.
I mean, depends on how big the radius of Nowhere is. I guess that could have saved that or protected that, but they weren't, because Nowhere was on the other side attacking the ship from that end, so that way they could get into the ship.
Well, that doesn't explain it. So this is just something we got to overlook, I guess.
Well, yeah, because the whole time I was like, shouldn't they have died there? I mean, I don't want them to die that way, but it's you got to kind of make sense for why they aren't dying, or even why. I guess why those animals didn't die either when they were flying around outside, but they're probably more machine than animal at that point. But totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, there's so much of this movie that I just straight up enjoyed. Like I liked that they did not let Gamora and Quill get back together at the end of it. I liked that at the end when everyone's hugging, that Gamora still wouldn't hug them because she still does not feel like a part of them because her family's the Ravagers now. It's not the Guardians. So, like, did you like or dislike that? That they kept Gamora still kind of at arm's length?
I mean, at the one point it seemed like she was like, working with them or hired them, whatever. And it's like I don't buy that she just instantly became like family with the Ravagers.
Well, you got to think it's been probably a few years since Endgame.
Right, but then she's like been through this movie, then working back with the Guardians and kind of building a relationship. You kind of tell that she's kind of warming up to Quill. I'm not saying she's going to fall in love with him again or anything like that.
No, they're just more on.
But she seems just very quick to be like, okay, that's cool. See you later. I'm just like, really, I just don't buy that she's become family like this with the Ravagers so fast. But who knows?
Well, it's probably because she's the most badass out of that group, so they probably all look at her,
especially
like,
with her sister, who even if you didn't have the whole everything that occurred between Guardians and Infinity War, even if this is the earlier version of Gamora, she still had a lifetime of being the sister with Nebula. So
well, yeah, but that doesn't mean she wants to stay with her. That just means that she's living her life, she lives her life. We'll be there for each other, kind of thing. But I also didn't think that her character, like I feel like her character would help them now without question. But she knows, like, I love that, like, that's kind of thing is like she knows that if she stays, she's just going to be looked at as like old Gamora. She's not that Gamora though. She's a different Gamora. She needs to still have her life.
I thought the fact that Peter Quill was not going to be there would make it more likely for her to be able to stick around and not have that stigma.
But at that moment, they hadn't made that decision though.
Yeah.
They didn't know Peter was leaving at that time.
I know. I feel like she went with the Ravagers just because Zoe Saldana said she didn't want to do anymore. So that's the way of her writing her out.
I mean, it effectively is.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. But I mean, it was weird to kind of like actively root for Adam throughout the movie because Adam, like, effectively the whole reason why Rocket's fucked up in the first place is because Adam did that. And then Adam also killed that one Ravager and effectively stole his it's not a dog, but he basically stole like his Lilo and Stitch, kind of thing. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, I'm part of you now. And it's like, which that's always how Adam Warlock's character is. Even in the video game, he's a villain at first and then joins the group kind of thing. But it's like most of this movie is because Adam did all this, and now they're having to like open a door to do all this other stuff. But they chalked it up to Groot and Drax saying like everyone deserves a second chance kind of thing. But
even before, like they had that moment where he was like, it seemed like he was going to rebel against his mother, but then like that didn't really work out. So it's like all of a sudden it's just like he's there and just decides to be part of their family. It's like it's a big sudden. It's like feels like there's like this whole scenes of Adam Warlock cut out of this movie.
Yeah, I feel like there's a moment there that he needs to, because like he tries to get back to his mom. She dies. He gets back to the Guardian ship, gets tied up, still is attacking them, gets self-destructed in the ship, and then just all of a sudden is like, oh, okay, I'm with you now. And it's like, no. Like, I mean, but it's also one of the things is like he wasn't with them. Groot saved him. But it's like he also didn't really need to be saved. I think he would have been fine without him. But it was more like him noticing that, Groot saved him. But I mean, there was never that moment where he found out that like High Evolutionary killed his mom. Like I expected, like that's gonna come down to like Quill's gonna have to tell him, dude, he killed your mother, not us. Like you should be like I was expecting that scene to happen.
It's like I assume that the gist of it was basically that he was basically doing what his mom told him to do, and his mom was working for this High Evolutionary. And so he basically was just working for him too. And at some point he's like, I don't like what these people are doing. I don't want to be a part of this. But it needed another scene to clarify that.
You almost had to just kind of chalk it up to like he's being looked at as a child. So I guess the child is going with people who he feels safest with. Yeah. But like at the blink of an eye, I wouldn't trust Warlock. Like he would attack you if he just felt like it kind of thing. You know, he's no different than like a baby, like Brightburn. You know, you might be nice right now, but you piss him off, and all of a sudden you're all dead, kind of thing. But yes, I do feel like there could have been a few more scenes to just establish his character a little bit more, so that way because you knew by the end of the movie he was going to be on the side of the Guardians, because that's just Warlock's character. But you needed to have more growth in those scenes, so that way for the people who don't know Adam Warlock, it made more sense to allow him to get into the film overall. But I'm running out of things to talk about now. I had so many things, but we've been kind of going all over the place, and I feel like I've gotten everything. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think we've covered everything I had on my list.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoy this a lot. I had a blast watching this. I know you enjoyed it, but it didn't hit the levels you wanted it to hit.
No, honestly, this at least met my expectations, if not actually exceeded them a little bit, because I was worried about them leaning too heavily into the dramatic and emotional, which there's definitely those scenes in the movie. I do not think it was overdone. Like I said, I personally did not enjoy some of the animal scenes, but I get where they're going with it, and that's just my personal thing. But it that did not detract from the movie for me. Those are just scenes I didn't like.
The only thing I thought overdone was the fake deaths on Drax. The Quill one I thought was fine.
But I felt there was plenty of comedy throughout the movie. I thought that all the comedy worked. Like I said, the music, when it worked really well. There was a few songs that seemed shoehorned in there just to put a song in. But again, like I said, that was a problem with the second movie as well. But yeah, I mean, I think the first Guardians is still the best of the trilogy, but this is still a very strong movie.
Did you like how they brought the song back in the mid-credit scene?
Which one? I do remember that.
In the mid-credit scene, when they're all hanging around talking about what music they like.
Oh, that's right.
And they asked Rocket, and of course it was the very, very first song that we see Quill dancing to in Guardians 1.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a nice touch. And honestly, the audience noticed that too in my theater. They all like embraced that.
The one thing I will say that's reminded me of it worked fine for that if it was in the holiday special, but I'm not sure I'd like the little dance party at the end at Nowhere. I was like, okay.
Fine.
I guess it was kind of just going for a celebratory kind of end of the trilogy, like Return of the Jedi. That
I was gonna say it was a Yub Nub moment. Like it was 1,000% a Yub Nub moment. I guarantee you, James Gunn was like, "We're having our own Yub Nub moment."
So in 15 years, he can release a special edition and replace the song with just some boring instrumental music.
No, that's not James Gunn's way. but like it was all honestly set up to finally let Drax embrace the fun and actually dance.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, it worked because my audience, when he started dancing, they were clapping when he finally broke down and started dancing. I liked that moment. Like I said, when we were talking about Craggle at the end, I loved his moment where he finally got to be Yondu. And that moment when he saw Yondu, I was like, God damn it! I didn't think that was gonna get me, but that fucking got me. Like I was like, yeah, Craggle, you do it, man, you do it, kind of thing.
Wait, Craggle is from the Lego Movie. You're thinking Kraglin.
I said Kraglin.
You said Craggle.
I thought in my brain I was saying Kraglin. But yeah, no, when the Craggle, I know, but I thought I said Kraglin. But no, I loved that moment. Like I said, it was honestly like because throughout the whole movie it's emotional, but I wasn't like letting myself get emotional. It wasn't until I honestly thought Rocket was gonna die, which I was like, he's not gonna die, but it was more or less Chris Pratt sold the shit out of that moment. And even like even though we saw a tease of it in the trailer, he sold that moment amazingly.
Yeah.
And then you brought in that moment with Lila and Teef and Floor. And I was just like, oh my God, are they actually going to do it? Like this whole movie was for nothing if they kill fucking Rocket. And like I said, and Nebula's moment. That was, it's not a Andrew Garfield catching Mary Jane moment, but it was that her embracing her like her emotions catching her at that moment. She heard that Rocket was alive was such a, like it got me. And then of course, like I said, the Yondu moment got me as well. But yeah, I enjoyed the dancing at the end. I thought if you hated anything,
I didn't hate that scene. Let me be clear.
No. I thought if there was ever a scene that I was like, Brian's not gonna like this moment. I definitely thought that during the dancing scene. I was like, I guarantee you Brian didn't like the dancing scene. But I figured it was when Quill decided to go back to Earth, and then the post-credit scene was just them sitting at the table talking about mowing the lawn. And did you notice the newspaper article?
I tried to. I missed it.
It said alien abduction.
Alien.
Kevin Bacon tells all.
Oh, see, I didn't see the Kevin Bacon part.
Yeah, so it was once again.
And right as I went to try to read the headlines when they cut away.
Yeah, no, it said alien abduction. Kevin Bacon tells all. So it was once again a connection to the holiday special.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. What's funny is like literally on my way to go see this movie yesterday, I was driving. Because I just watched, I just marathoned all the Guardian stuff, and I found myself thinking like, you know what, who got screwed is his grandpa. It's like he doesn't even know he's alive out there. He's never seen. He lost his daughter and his son got abducted, and for all he knows, he's just gone. He doesn't know he's an alien. He just knows his son disappeared the same day. And I'm like, man, that sucks for him. And so as soon as this movie they started talking about him, I'm like, he's come back.
I honestly didn't even think about it, but then as like Mantis and him are having that conversation, I was like, he's got a fucking point there. But it's like, because it's not like his grandfather's gonna know what he looks like at that age. So it's not like he's gonna know who Star-Lord is. But I did love that moment. He's like, grown-ups on Earth die at like 50. You're gonna die? Do I look 50?
I take issue with that, but that's a whole different thing.
Well, no, that whole line was hilarious to me, kind of thing. And then,
when they brought back Greg Henry for that scene at the end, and honestly, there were people around me talking at that point because the movie proper had ended, and so that scene with the lawn mowing conversation, I couldn't really make out all the dialogue in it, but it was kind of like I felt like I get having a scene here, but it didn't seem like there was anything to it. It was like
I didn't.
Not really a joke in it,
I didn't catch a lot of the dialogue. It was just more him living a normal everyday life.
Yeah, just talking about mowing the lawn. I'm like, well, at least make a joke here,
Well, it was. I think the joke was that I think it was
something about a 40-year-old man mowing your lawn.
The nurse's kid wouldn't mow his own lawn, so he needed someone else to mow the lawn. But he sits on the porch and he watches someone mow the lawn, kind of thing. It was something like him not understanding like that. But I had
a better joke there for me.
I had people talking about it too. It was more like hearing like the spoon in the bowl, like especially even after like they said, Star-Lord will return, and you hear the click clack.
Let's talk about that for a minute. So. Yeah. At the end of this movie, which we know it's James Gunn's last, we know Dave Bautista said he's done because he's not doing that. James Gunn, the other people have been a little more evasive. Or at least open,
this way: if Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper decide not to come back, dude, you guys are getting paid so much money to do nothing.
They don't need. They honestly they only had to have them in the first movie. I'm sure there's contracts and things involved.
Yeah,
but really after that, you could easily just cast voice doubles because voice doubles are so easy. Like, because there's people that have been doing their voices in video games or in cartoon series and things like that. You don't need to have them. Or for Groot, you just use sound files you already have.
Exactly. If it becomes a money thing, you don't need Vin Diesel back for this. And Bradley Cooper, like, I would like to think that Bradley Cooper would just do it because Bradley Cooper is great.
But you could very easily just use a voice double of some kind.
Absolutely.
A different actor. So those people are possibly coming back. Like I said, I do not think that the new group of Guardians, they aren't going to be able to support a movie by themselves. Maybe could make a fun little limited series on Disney Plus. I don't know. But the only thing we get at the end, though, we get the legendary Star-Lord will return. So. And I looked, and since then I've seen like interviews with Chris Pratt where it's like, he says, "Oh, it'd be weird to play Star-Lord without James Gunn directing, but I'd be open to it." So my question
is, if it makes sense is the term he used. I'll come back if it makes sense.
Yeah, my question is, and clearly it's not just if they said that like there's a plan. Legendary Star-Lord,
which is why like what I read that article saying I'll come back if it makes sense, and then it got to the part where they were killing Quill, and I was like, oh, did he say that just to throw everyone off that he doesn't die in this movie?
Yeah.
But yeah, continue.
But since it says Legendary Star-Lord will return, clearly there's some kind of plan to have him return. So the only question is it like a Disney Plus show, or is talking about he's going to pop up in one of these other movies coming up, whether it be all the way in like Avengers Secret War or something earlier. I'm off the top of my head, I'm forgetting everything that's scheduled so far.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the whole MCU's in flux now until they figure out the Jonathan Majors situation. I mean, until they figure out what they're going to do with that, whether they keep him, don't keep him, a lot of this is still planned, but we really don't know what the fuck to expect.
But I mean, he's on Earth now. Does he pop up in Secret Wars for all, or not Secret Wars, Secret Invasion? We don't know what's going on. So.
Does he join the Young Avengers? that apparently is overgrowing with cast members now. I want to see.
You know what? You know what would be fun? They wouldn't do it because he's not a leader of. I don't think we see him as leader of children. But having him as like a mentor to Young Avengers almost would be kind of a fun dynamic.
I was, as we were discussing, I was like, I would love to see him with Kate Bishop. I think those two would be hilarious together. Because they're both.
Take his shit. Yeah.
What's that?
She's not going to take his shit.
She's not going to take his shit, but they're both kind of like quippy, like adorable idiots.
And they're both like totally like fanboy out.
Yeah, and then you add Kamala as well. Oh my god, it honestly might be too much.
Well, I'm still not keen on the whole Young Avengers thing. I hope it doesn't happen, but that's just me.
They got to do something for when all the older Avengers, which is already kind of happening, are aging out to the point where they don't want to play those roles.
But here's my problem though. With what we have announced so far, and if the rate stuff comes out,
I mean, we're gonna have all the X-Men at this point. Like
everybody who they currently have who would be in a Young Avengers will not be young ananymore by the time they would make this Young Avengers.
They'll just be the Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
they're taking too damn long to make Young Avengers that they're all gonna be in their mid-20s to 30s by the time this actually fucking shoots. Right. So that does make total fucking sense. They're gonna have to either start de-aging them or go, this is a younger version of that character that we already fucking established.
It's the younger Avengers.
Yeah, and this is the youngest Avengers. They're the 6th best Avengers group out there right now.
Oh god.
Cinemasochist.
Oh god, please don't bring that into this. Let's just say James Gunn has come a long way.
Yes, and I am excited to see what he does over at DC. I know a lot of people are still kind of like not sure if he's going to do well or not, or they think he's going to ruin it. But
I think the only people who are really on the fence about him at DC are the ones who are way too slavishly devoted to the Snyderverse. Honestly,
I agree. I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited to see the approach. It's not. I don't think it'll ever reach like MCU level, but it doesn't need to be MCU. It needs to be the alternative to the MCU. Something that we can go to when we need a break from the MCU, which I mean, after Ant-Man and the Wasp was kind of a disappointment to a point. I mean, we still liked it, but it still was, I mean, it was disappointment compared to what we expected. Guardians usually always is kind of a breath of fresh air approach. It definitely, because it's not like the other films. It's a fun journey ride with these characters, and it's off from the norm of what we normally get. Yes, were there moments where I was like, wouldn't they call Thor? Thor's a guardian, but then it's like, and I heard Brian Hill going, just because he's a guardian doesn't mean he's going to be in this movie kind of deal. But because
he's clearly off dealing with his own shit, so
he's being a dad. If anything, he should be more. His favorite rabbit is hurt. Come on, Thor, where are you, dude? But at the end of the day, I was so happy with what we got here. If anything, when I came home last night, it made me want to go back and rewatch the first 2 films because I didn't get to watch them. And it made me want to go back and start the trilogy over again. But I was like, but then that means I got to go back and watch this again. And I don't want to go back.
You know you're going to watch this again.
No, absolutely. I don't know if I want to go back into the theater to watch it again. Oh. I might wait to watch this one until it like pops on Disney Plus. And at that point, it's like, I want to wait and watch those when I can just watch all 3. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, because I coming into this the past week, I watched Guardians 1, Guardians 2, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. The first, what is that, 10 minutes, not even, of Thor Love and Thunder.
It's 5 to 7 minutes tops.
And Holiday Special.
Yeah, I wanted to at least watch Guardians 1 and 2, but I had too much crap happening this weekend. Or this week, so I didn't get to do it. But it made me want to go back and rewatch and start the Guardians story all over again when I came back home. But I'll just wait until this pops up on Disney Plus, like 2 months probably is what it's going to be. But at the end of the day, it's a positive for both of us. Brian gave it 4 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's my number 1 movie of the year right now. It's probably in your top 10, or did it not crack your top 10?
Oh, you've seen what's in the top 10 so far this year.
I know that, but a 4-star is one of those things where it's like you have a lot of 4 stars. So it depends on where it is.
Well, this one could go up to 4.5. It's kind of in that. I'll see it again and make a final judgment on it. It's currently definitely in the top 3. I'm not ready to put it number 1 just yet, but it could get there. So we'll see.
But let us know what you guys thought of the movie. Did you guys love it? Did you guys think it's overrated? This will not be on our overrated rankings for the end of the year for the awards. But we hope you guys enjoyed this non-spoiler and spoiler discussion of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. If you guys did, hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. Of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Out right now is our episode of Cinemasochism, where we talk about a movie that is nowhere near as good as The Guardians, and that is James Gunn's first written film, The Specials. Don't watch it. Trust us on that.
Well, watch Cinemasochism. Don't watch the movie.
Yeah. Don't waste your time watching the movie. Just watch us talk about how shitty the film is. Our summer movie preview, where we talk about Guardians on that as well as pretty much 90% of all the movies that come out during the summer. As well as we give our box office predictions for the top 10 at the end of summer is on that. So check out that video, as well as this past week's Weekly Crusaders, where we talked about Loverboy and Oscar. We are not going to be shooting a Weekly Crusaders episode for this week because we're too busy talking about Guardians and summer stuff and all that fun stuff.
Next one we're really excited about, though.
Next week we are 1,000% doing an episode for that, as well as another episode of Cinemasochism. We're going to take the rest of the weekend off to, just live life and
I have to edit all these too. So.
What's that? Yeah, I'm gonna try to do all this today, so I can enjoy my birthday weekend. But yes, we'll be back next week with more episodes. Till then, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrew. That's Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.